On July 17, 2026, there was a final rule that was published, effectively ending duration of status for all F-1 and J-1. And that's big news. It doesn't just affect students and J-1 scholars and researchers, but it can also affect you if you're an employer, because you might employ J-1, you might employ OPT, STEM, and also sponsor them for the green card and also for the H-1B. So this is just a video summarizing some of the questions I've been getting from HR and from my clients as well. So one question I'm getting a lot is, how is this going to impact my status if I'm currently working on STEM OPT or regular OPT? So according to the final rule that was published, if you're maintaining valid F1 status as of September 15, 2026, you are continuing to be in F1 status, and your effective end date, so your admit until date, will end on your I-20 program end date or your EAD expiration date. So this is a good time to look at your EAD card if you're working on OPT and check when that is. There is a 6-month transition period. So if you're applying for OPT before March 17, 2027, you do not have to apply for a extension of status. So that's going to affect a lot of people who are going to be graduating in December in the winter quarter. And if you fall within that camp, then you're lucky, you're exempt from the extension of status application. But if you're graduating next year, let's say, and you're applying for OPT, then you will need to apply for an extension of status application. So that's a 539, along with the AED application, which is a 765. But if you're already on, let's say you're on regular OPT and you qualify for STEM and you're applying for STEM OPT next year, and it's after March, then just keep in mind that you will have to apply for an extension of status and for a new EAD based on your STEM OPT. That's a lot for the employee to remember, but if you're an employer, you have to keep track, because before you just had to check the EAD expiration date, but now you have to keep track of your students' admit until date as well. So how is that going to affect you? Well, that will affect you when you do I-9 compliance. No longer can you put duration of status as the expiration date, but now you have to check what the program end date is. And that's also if you're hiring students on CPT, right? So you have to look at what the program end date is. You have to look at the EAD expiration, because now they're two separate concepts. And something you have to keep in mind is that when you travel outside of the US and when you enter, CBP will now, after September 15th, will now issue fixed admit until dates instead of duration of status, okay? And that means there's room for error. CBP could put the wrong date for your end of status date, or let's say your program end date is 2030 September, but your passport expires in 2028. Well, CBP may put your status end date as 2028 instead of 2030. So now it's even more imperative that every time you enter the US after international travel, you have to check your I-94 date to make sure that your admit until date is actually correct. And if there are any discrepancies, you need to let your employer know and contact an immigration attorney so you can make sure you extend your status appropriately. Another alternative to file an extension is if you have a valid F-1 visa, you can always exit the country and enter with your new I-20, and CBP should automatically extend your admit until date according to the new I-20 date. So that's another way to get out of filing for the 539, because when you file for a 539, unless you have a lot of time to wait, which a lot of people might not, you're probably gonna have to file for premium processing. So you have to file for premium processing on your status application and on your EAD, right? Depending on when your employment is going to start, depending on the gap. Something else to note in the new rule is if you're currently in F1, you can't transfer within your first year. You also can't change your major within the first year. You can't transfer school. So what that is all saying is that USCIS is wary of people who are entering on F1 with other intent. If you're saying that you're going to be studying for a bachelor's program, they want you to stay here and study for that bachelor's program. They want you to study in that major that you say you're going to be entering. If you're saying you're coming for a 2-year master's program, they don't want you to all of a sudden change and go, do a bachelor's program, or if you're here for a bachelor's program, they don't want you to drop out and now do a language program or do day one CPT. So there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on what did you say you're going to be doing at the consulate when you got the F1 visa, and what do you end up doing. So that might not come up when you're doing the change of status application. It might now, or it might come up when you apply for the green card or when you apply for the H-1B. There's going to be a lot more scrutiny on what did you do while you're here on your F1 status. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something to tell your company's immigration attorney if you're applying for H-1B, if you're applying for the green card, because these are all issues that might come up later. The good news is that the new rule does not touch cap gap. So if you're waiting for your October 1st change of status date, let's say your H-1B got approved, you're here on F1. Good news is that after September 15th, you still maintain your F1, and on October 1st, you will automatically change your status to H-1B. If you're on cap gap, I recommend do not travel outside of the US. Stay put until your H-1B has effectively changed status. So you are in H-1B status before you leave and apply for your new visa. Another change in the rule is that they've shortened the grace period. So no longer do you get 60 days after your program end date, but you get 30 days. So that, can be a disadvantage, especially if that means you have 30 days to look for employment. You have 30 days to transfer your status or transfer your school, right? Or apply for extension of status. So now that deadline is very tight. And that can also impact, for example, if you're applying for H-1B and your program end date is April 1st, that gives you 30 days to apply for an H-1B as opposed to 60 days. But now depending on exactly when your program end date, you only get 30 days. So you might not be able to apply for cap gap H-1B anymore. So as practitioners, we have to pay close attention to all of our F1 applicants' I-20s, especially after September 15, 2026, to make sure they're eligible for the benefits, they're eligible for cap gap, their status aligned with their OPT. So there's gonna be a lot more work for us to do to make sure that all of our student employees and our students maintain status.